All right, kids, today a Cabernet Sauvignon deal of mythical proportions. Kind of a big deal. It is kind of a big deal. You have pedigree, you have press, you have power, you have price. All of it. One snappy package. From the great John Duval. Who's John Duval, you might say? I'm going to tell you. John Duval was the chief winemaker at Penfolds for 30 years. 14, 20, almost 30 years. And from 1986 to like 2002. Over the course of that time, he oversaw some of the greatest, not just Australian wines, mind you, get that out of the equation, some of the greatest red wines ever made. 1990 Grange, his. 1996 Cabernet Block 42 Cabernet, his. 707, his. He created 407. He created RWT Shiraz. This guy is an institution and one of the greatest guys ever to man a thief. Now, in 2002, he decided to go his own way and started up John Duval Wines. He wanted full control front to back. He'd learned enough and had done enough at Penfolds, obviously, so that all this was like a walk in the park to him. And it was. Success came immediately to John. Over the last 20, 25 years, he's made some of the greatest red wines in the world again over the course of his time at John Duval Wines. And this is just another example of his greatness and the wonderful prices that he charges for his product, because a lot of places in the world think big price equates with greatness, and it doesn't necessarily have to work that way. You can make great wine and charge a reasonable price for it. The rest of the world seems to have figured this out, and America is the only one that kind of hasn't. Oh well, maybe they will. I hope they do soon. Anyway, John Duval's Compono Cabernet Sauvignon. So referring to components, referring to the fact that you can make single vineyard wines, but what made John so damn great at Penfolds was his ability to work with like 60 different vineyards and create Grange, right? The blending, the work, the knowing that little pinch of this, little pinch of that. All the greatest winemakers in the world have had that capability. John has it, and he has it. He's got a lot of it. But in this case, he fell in love with two specific sites. Mostly this comes from an area called Mapa in the Barossa Valley floor, but at a higher altitude. So higher elevation Barossa vineyard to give the wine freshness as well as intensity. And then a third of the wine comes from the Eden Valley, from a vineyard from the Hutton Vale Farm, which is located basically in between Hill of Grace and Mount Edelstone. So for you icon Australian wine lovers, this vineyard is basically smack dab in the middle of two of the greatest vineyards, not just in Australia, but the world. And that makes up a third of the blend. Oh, he's going to use American oak. No. French oak. By the way, it's French oak puncheons, larger barrels, what the French might refer to as demi-muid, and the Australians call them hogsheads. It's a larger French barrel, so the oak treatment isn't as intense and pervasive in the wine, and only 20% new, by the way, even with these larger barrels. Oh, it's going to be a big wine. Oh, I don't drink oozy, jammy things. Well, if you drink Napa Cabernet, you do. But besides that, this wine's 14% alcohol. Proper, perfect alcohol content. Well, the French would say a little too high for classic Cabernet Sauvignon. So let's taste this. I haven't had this yet. We had to do a rush buy on this because, well, I'll tell you at the end. We had to hurry on this one. So I wish I could tell you I already tasted it, but no. But talk about your no-brainers. John Duval, perfect closure, top vintage. I mean, come on. How? Yeah. You know, these wines, the wines he made at Penfolds, required a little more bottle age, I'd say. While they were kind of, pretty juicy out the gate, they still, he worked on a little higher acid profile and a higher tannin profile than he does here. These wines, under his own regime, are more supple, more silkily textured, more gossamer, more, ooh, fuck, boy. Ooh, popped that one right out. Good gravy. Yes, please. Very important note. Cabernet here still tastes like Cabernet. the Cabernet in the Barossa Valley does not taste like Shiraz. It tastes like, Cabernet. So important for these folks to put the varietal aspect of the grape first and let the terroir kind of buffer this classic varietal aspect of the grape. Like, you don't need to screw with Cabernet. It's supposedly, the king of red wine grapes. So just let the Cabernet speak and just kind of come in behind and push it with this wonderful, beautiful sunny terroir in this neck of the woods. This is absolutely gorgeous Cabernet Sauvignon. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Exquisitely balanced. The drinkability factor here is through the roof because of that pinpoint balance, that precision in the wine. So key. I'm in love. Stop. Okay, now for the big reveal. So the reason why we had to act fast, 95 points from Wine Spectator. Let that sink in a minute. These guys don't give anything, any scores. They're curmudgeons. Have you been watching? Have you seen? Really intense. So when this wine hit 95 points at this price point, we bought everything that was available to us in the market. They shipped us a 6-pack short, but we'll deal with it. We bought everything. 95 points. Oh, that's not too high. Well, if you're living in the world of some other critics, it's not too high. But with the Spectator, we're not even going to do 2022 because that vintage isn't as good in Napa as 2021. Let's go 2021 Napa. Let's see some other great Napa Cabernets that scored 95 points blind from Wine Spectator in the great 2021 vintage to give you some idea of the press behind this incredible wine. Let's see. Isley Vineyard. Ever heard of it? Yeah. Yeah, $550 a bottle, 95 points. Ooh, Diamond Creek Red Rock. That's a familiar one, right? $500 a bottle. Want to guess the score? 95. Ooh, bang on. How about Opus 1? Sound familiar? Yeah. That one's only $455. Score? 95. Can we continue? Oh, Cardinal. How about Continuum? How about Paul Hobbs' Dr. Crane? How about Kinsman Eads? How about Ridge Montebello? How about David Arthur? What do they all have in common? 95 points from the Wine Spectator. And they all sell for 10 to 20 times more than this wine. That's the other part of the deal. Not only did we get all of it, we got it at a really good price. This wine usually sports about a $40 retail, which in the presence of these fine beverages is not exorbitant. I'm not exactly shaming you guys into buying this, but yeah, no. Yeah, pretty much am. Today's price, $27. So $27 for a wine with this pedigree, from that winemaking legend, from a great vintage that obviously runs and plays with the big dogs of the Napa Valley at a much, like 20 muches, much finer price, like the Bill Withers thing, yeah? I know. Now you'll know. Hurry, only 300 bottles.